Hey guys, it's Eric from foundersbeta.com, and I'm so excited to chat with folks at Synctera. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining today.
Thanks for having us, Eric. Appreciate it.
We're excited.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to learn about what's it like to work there. I know you guys are in high growth, but yeah, maybe Chris, tell us about what you do and everything that's exciting.
Well, there's a lot in there. So let me start with what we're doing. So basically what we're doing is we've created a platform that exists between the world of banking and the world of fintech. And so when you look at what's happening in financial services, a lot of the interesting stuff that's happening is really kind of on the tech side. A lot of the fintech companies are really kind of dialed in on user experience and digital. And the banks are really good at keeping track of where the money's at and making sure that the customers are legitimate and that the regulators are happy. And so what our platform does is we basically bring these two worlds together to get the best of both, and we create like an operating system in the middle that helps fintechs connect to banking capabilities, banking plumbing, the licenses that they need to launch the solution that they want. And what we provide for banks is transparency. And transparency is like the antidote for banking anxiety. So if banks can see what's going on, and they can in our platform, then it really helps them sleep at night.
Right. So talk about who would be like ideal, I mean, of course, who would be like ideal customer for this? I know you mentioned banks, but like, is there like a specific specific maybe sector or whatever?
We're primarily focused on U.S. community banks that have somewhere around $1 billion in assets. And, the reason is that we find that the community banks are, they're smaller banks. Mm-hmm. They're fast to make decisions. They typically are eager to expand and grow, but they don't want to build any new branches. And so what we offer the community bank is a whole new line of business. They can expand their revenues. They can increase their profits by focusing on this new line of business, which is banking fintechs and opening up this whole new sector for them. Right. So that's really what our focus has been, is really talking to community banks that are in that sort of size and category.
Right, exciting. So talk about your team. I know I saw you guys had an open house in Toronto some weeks ago, which is really exciting. I know you're growing rapidly. So talk about your hiring and how does it look like, or yeah.
So there's a couple things here. So we have grown ridiculously quickly. It has been an absolute rocket ship. So as an example, 2 years ago, if I was having an all hands company meeting, it would probably just be like one or two of us. It was really small. A year and a half ago, it still was pretty small, like maybe 5, 6, 10 people. And now we're over 120 people.
Amazing.
The growth has been phenomenal, but not just the hiring growth, the growth of the platform.
Right.
We've got about 15 services that are behind our API that are in production now. We've got features and capabilities on the bank side that have been in production for months. So I'm really proud of the team that we've assembled, but I'm also really proud of all the stuff that we've built. The deals that we've signed. So we've got banks on one side and fintechs on the other side. We've got over 5 banks signed and in the platform on the bank side. We've got over 20 fintechs that we're working with on the fintech side, and more kind of queued up to land in the platform. And then we've got great deals that we've cut with third parties, people like Socure and Feedzai and Marqeta, which creates this third third sort of dimension to our platform, which is really interesting. So it has been pretty crazy growing so fast. But we organized the team in smaller teams. So my engineering team is about 50 people, and we're organized in smaller teams.
Nice.
And I kind of like smaller teams because it feels right. Like if you get a team that's
Feels
too
like a
big,
startup, right?
yeah, it feels like even in a bigger team, you can feel like a number. In a
Exactly.
smaller team, you feel like people.
So
And I
true.
think that's,
So
that's a big part of how we think about hiring,
true.
and how we think about kind of organizing ourselves. It's about, keeping the human element in what we're doing.
Love it. Love it. Great. So, Brittany, you work as an engineer. So maybe talk about like, what does your team look like in a engineer, whether it's the resume, portfolio, any tips?
Yeah, I think one thing that is really unique and special about Synctera and how we hire engineers is that, Chris alluded to this, but we really hire for the whole person. Of course, technical skills are important,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm a very junior engineer and I can contribute and be a valuable member of the team. And so one of the ways that we do this is through a program we have called SyncU,
Mm-hmm.
which is essentially like an extended onboarding for folks who are more junior, who don't have as much experience. And it allows for an easier, a kind of a slower entry into our very quickly growing company. That way we can support a much more diverse engineering workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really speaks to, we're not just looking at the technical skills. Everyone on this team, whether it be our smaller individual pods or the overall overarching team, they bring something to the table that's just beyond their technical skills. Like everyone is kind and caring and a little silly and fun.
Right.
And it really works well, especially when you're dealing with really tight deadlines and rapid growth. Having teams that can, laugh at ourselves at the end of the day and also work hard when we really need to is just a fantastic balance. So overall, I'd say it's your resume is important, your experience is important, but at the end of the day, there are other ways to sell yourself to a company like Synctera and be a valuable member on this team.
Right on. So any thoughts on, like, building up experience for, let's say, new engineers? Like, do you look at hackathons? Do you look at, any side projects, anything that will help them maybe stand out?
I think we look at everything. So, like Brittany was saying, we try and look at the whole person. There's a lot of companies out there that really are hiring based on templates. It's a sort of a pattern recognition. Like, oh, you went to this school, okay, you worked at that company, check, and they're really hiring based on these patterns.
Right.
In my experience, and I've been creating bugs and hiring engineers for about 30 years, and in my experience, some of the best hires have been the ones where we've taken a bit of a chance. I don't know that school, but you seem interesting. Tell me more. And so by kind of looking beyond the patterns, I mean, patterns are interesting, but looking beyond that and understanding the person. How did you get here? Why do you want to do this? And digging into it. So, to your question, like I like to look at all the things. I'll take a look at a person's GitHub. I'll take a look at their side projects. I might ask them a question about one of their side projects and what they're doing. Really, what I love to see is passion. Be yourself and show up as your whole self. If you love writing code, that's great. If you don't love writing code, that's also fine. If you're amazing at it, but you really love rock climbing, I want to hear about all that stuff. Right? Be your whole self and be, I think just being, just showing up as a real person is important. We also look for people that think differently. And, so we're looking for signs that you're going to bring something interesting to the table. If you're, we have a take-home tech challenge that's a bit different, and we've had feedback on it that it's a bit different, and usually the feedback is positive. Like, hey, I felt like this wasn't a waste of my time is a nice bit of feedback on a take-home tech challenge.
For sure.
But the feedback that we get is that from a junior engineer, we want to see people just solve the problem and pay attention to detail. But for a senior engineer, and we hire quite a few people that have been at this for, for years, and have a lot of professional experience.
Right.
What I love to see from a senior engineer is that I learned something. Wow, I wouldn't have thought of this in this way, but that's really interesting.
Right.
And so the mix of that, and it creates a nice discussion during the interviewing process. Like, tell us, what were you what were you thinking here? Like, why is this the way it is?
Right.
So we like to, like Brittany was saying, we like to have fun in the interviewing process as well, and just get to know people and check the fit.
Oh, that's great. Now, in terms of like, I guess, in terms of like hiring like remote, like how does the setup look like? Or
yeah, I mean, everybody's pretty remote. So, we have like our company, we have kind of a cluster in Toronto, or around Toronto. We have a cluster around San Francisco and the Bay Area.
Nice.
We have a couple of other smaller clusters, places like Vancouver, Montreal, Ottawa, Chicago, New York. But really, we're a company that was started in the pandemic. We don't like, it's not like there's another way that we understand how to hire and work together. We just understand, remote primarily. We had an engineering offsite in Toronto about a month ago.
Nice.
And people got together, and it was like this amazing experience of meeting people for the first time that we've been working with for over a year.
Wow.
And it was almost like, haven't I seen you on TV? Like, it was almost like this,
right. You look familiar, right? Yeah. Right. That's awesome. So, so talk about the more on your interview process. Like, you talked a little bit about it, but anything like in terms of like soft skill, we talked about technical and stuff, but like anything about soft skills that would obviously help.
Yeah. I mean, we're looking for people that are great communicators, and, the ability to explain their work. We think a lot about we think a lot about diversity, and one of the ways that I think about this is, if I'm designing something and I have everybody around the table that has exactly the same experiences, we're probably going to miss something, right? Whereas if I have a team that's around that table that has a variety of experiences, we're going to have a much more robust design. And so, having diverse backgrounds and perspectives around the table is really important to us. We focus on that. The other thing is we have a pretty solid no jerk policy.
Right, I saw that. Right.
And,
I love that.
So I mean, and this has been tested, right? So we've had people coming through the funnel that were brilliant software engineers. They could code amazingly well, but they just seem to have a bit of an attitude about it, and and arrogance and things like that don't do well in our environment. This is an environment where we've got people that have been senior engineers for decades and are still learning. And to me, this is the mindset that we're looking for in the team, is a certain amount of humility. You could be the best engineer that's ever sort of written code,
right,
but without some sort of humility, it's hard to continue to learn, right? I think learning stops when you figure that you know it all.
Right.
So for sure. I know that I don't, and I continue learning, and I think it's a great attitude for the team.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So I'm sure a lot of engineers are going to be excited about this question. Talk about the tech stack maybe quickly. Anything exciting that they might be able to work on? Any exciting problems? Yeah.
Well, I mean, the stuff that we're working on is really interesting. First of all, because we're dealing with a ridiculous amount of scale. And so, for example, just a case in point, we are working on building the world's largest general ledger. And this sounds kind of boring because, ledgers, it sounds a little bit boring. But when you start to think about ledgering at the scale of hundreds of millions of transactions, now it's getting interesting. And we're working closely with engineers at one of our main providers to align on their leading edge technology and use that technology to scale a global massive database
Right.
to be able to handle ledgering at that scale. So we're tackling interesting problems. The languages that we're using, the stack that we're using, so our infrastructure is on GCP. Everything has been terraformed, and we have a full kind of GitLab environment that manages our CI/CD. We also have a really cool tool which I like to show during interviews, which is called Synctera Command.
Okay.
Synctera Command handles all the stuff that we need to do in a day, and it's really focused on engineer experience. So I use Synctera Command to release things. I use Synctera Command to inspect running services, to connect to the database. It enforces all of our security concepts and makes it really easy for engineers to do their jobs. In fact, if you run SC init, it just sets up your local environment and your variables and your Docker and everything else so that you're ready to go, and you can start to do your development.
Awesome, great. Yeah. So maybe I'll let rest of your team to comment on this one. What's it like to what's great about working there? So like anything that comes out. Maybe Devin, you have some ideas about what do you love there about the culture? Go for it.
Yeah, no, I think we've touched on a lot of great things, like the people for sure are one of the main reasons why I joined Synctera. I'd also add that the problems we're solving are really unique. They're fairly new, and they're just challenging and fun to work on. Everybody brings a great perspective every day to the office, the virtual office. And it's just a great, time to be a part of such a, great organization. And it's super exciting to see the scale that we've, had the last year and a bit. So for myself on the marketing team, we're a fairly small team still, but we're working on some really exciting stuff, and to be able to touch so many different parts of the business is really exciting.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, talk about any future hires right now, any openings or any exciting roles that you may be recruiting for?
Well, I mean, we are looking for software engineers, amongst other things. We're also looking for security engineers. I believe we have an opening for data engineer. We have some product roles that are open. And I would say like all I can't point to a role within the organization that's not exciting, because we're growing so fast and we're focused on such an interesting problem space and at a scale that's really focusing. And, so I think that any role in our organization, I think, has a lot of opportunity for growth, because, as we grow, we need people to step up and grow with us. And that's one thing that I'm really happy to see, is the people that have joined us, that have continued to scale with us and grow with us over time. But yeah, we have some great openings on our website, synctera.com. There's a link there to the current openings.
Awesome. So I guess for our audience, if they have any questions, besides the website, are there any other channels they can reach out to you? Maybe Twitter, LinkedIn?
We have a community Slack as well. So we're encouraging people to join our community Slack. The link is on our website. Yeah, and it's a great way to engage with us. We have a developer channel in there. I would also encourage people that are in the software space to check out our API. If you go to dev.synctera.com, we have all of our APIs published there. And we've got a community Slack, and we regularly talk about development and APIs in there.
Right. Yeah. By the way, nice work with that Fintech Slack group. Who's leading that?
I'm actually helping lead that community.
Yeah, great. Maybe tell us a little bit about the community there. Like, because of course I joined, but tell us a little bit more details. Why should some of our members join? Because I saw lots of conversation around fintech, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think our long-term goal is to kind of get everyone in the ecosystem involved. So like fintechs, banks, developers, allies in the space, just like a place for people to have organic conversation, connect. bounce ideas off each other. So we're just starting out, but we're really excited. I think 2022 will be a big year for us in our Slack community. So definitely join. It will be exciting and you'll learn a lot, and tell your friends.
Awesome. And any events coming up? I know you had the Toronto open house, but like any online events or anything cooking up right now?
We have actually a webinar coming up in 2 weeks on ACH payments. We are actually about to post about it in Slack, but also will be on our other social channels as well. But yeah, definitely a lot in the works, but that's our next upcoming event.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that should wrap it up. I'd like to thank you all for coming out today and yeah, you know, sharing your stories with our audience. So thank you so much. And yeah, we're looking forward to your development. And yeah, I'm looking forward to, you know, continuing to tune in on that Slack channel there. So yeah, and we can't wait to share this with our audience. Thanks again.
Thanks a lot, Eric.
Thank you.